Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Celebrity Natal Charts. Today we are going to be kick back, relax, open up another window, and play like Tetris or Solitaire because I'm going to be here ranting and raving um, with my very minimal knowledge of astrology about Sandra Bullock today. But I have some complaints against myself as I'm looking at the Leo rising Taurus options that I had, and I'm like, I can't believe I chose Austin Butler over Halle Berry. So I'm kind of sad about that, and I will be writing a strongly worded letter to myself. But today we're looking at the Leo rising Gemini, which the options I had for that was Dua Lipa, Sandra Bullock, and Mick Jagger and Amy Adams. All like really great people, and looking at the sign of Leo, it's like the sign of fame and famous. So it's kind of like really difficult to make a decision in that area. But Sandra Bullock was born in Arlington, Virginia, United States, July 26, 1964 at 3:15 a.m. Birth time accuracy poor. Uh, Sorry. Don't have my readers on. So grab your readers, open up another window, play Tetris, listen to this. It should be informative and intuitive. If not, at least it's about Sandra Bullock. Let's zoom in. Zoom in. Okay. Sandra Annette Bullock is an American actress and producer. She rose to fame in the 1990s with roles in films such as Demolition Man, look who knows how to read, 1993, Speed, 1994, The Net, While You Were Sleeping, 1995, A Time to Kill, 1996, and Hope Floats, 1998. It's literally 2026. This is like classic literature. In the new millennium, Bullock starred in Miss Congeniality, 2 Weeks Notice, The Lake House, and the critically acclaimed Crash, which kind of seems like Speed, and Gravity. Ryan Stone and Gravity. Bullock was nominated a second time for the Academy Awards Best Actress, along with the BFCA Golden Globe and SAG Award, and also received her first BAFTA nomination. Let's look at like a updated something not from 2015. Maybe, you know what I mean? Also, she done. Sandra Annette Bullock, born July 26, 1964, in Arlington, Virginia, is an American-German actress and producer. She rose to fame 1990s. Okay, well, so sure. Google says the same thing. But she is a Leo rising Gemini, which, famous for talking, famous for speaking. Gemini in the first house means that she enjoys being around a lot of people who look like her, same height, same Higgets and Wiggett, same height and weight as her. Gets her self-esteem from being a Gemini. What does that mean? From like speaking really well, from being a good communicator, from working out and things like that. Also, like I guess maybe her father, things about her father, or things that maybe she tries to translate through her creations, or maybe just like her last name. You know what I mean? She also has Mars and Venus in Gemini, meaning that she acts and loves and attracts like a Gemini, which is like to talk. So, if you were to hit Sandra Bullock or say something very rude or mean to her, her go-to thing would maybe to like clown you or to like make a bunch of jokes about you and like, your name isn't Sandra Bullock, your name sucks, your dad is probably terrible. Venus in Gemini, what does it mean to attract like a Gemini? Meaning that she kind of uses like the power, the power and the laws of attraction. Like, look how cute my face is. Look how beautiful my voice is. And that's sort of like being an actress, right? Like, give me this role. You've seen me in Demolition Man. I was afraid of that word. It's like Demolition Man. So she probably never says anything like Demolition Man. She's probably very quick and smart and intelligent. which is also another trait of Gemini. How tricky she can be, how Tom Sawyer she can be, gives her a lot of self-esteem boost. How many times she can get other people to paint her fences white, gives her a lot of self-esteem. Her second house, she has Cancer. So the second house in Cancer says to me that her greatest resource is her mother. So you get a lot of self-esteem from her father. Really cool last name from her dad, I assume. But then also, I guess, like financial resources, maybe knowing how to take care of herself as a woman and her finances as a woman might come from her mom. It also says to me that being from Arlington, Virginia, maybe she should move to Baltimore and start selling Maryland blue crabs. That might be like a really good job for her, as I'm learning that Warren Buffett has made most of his money off of grocery stores. So, if Sandra Bullock came out with her own type of Old Bay seasoning, like a Virginia version of Old Bay, I think that it would be very lucrative. Her greatest priority should be like maternity and motherhood. So I'm assuming she might have children. She might not, but if she doesn't, she should. She'd be a great mother. She'd be a mother of a mother. I really need to write down, like, how I do this, which I have, and I've been reviewing my own videos so I don't feel like pressured. But I try to have this like off the cuff and not so formulaic. And I kind of go back and forth with that, as there's like probably going to be 100 of these videos. But she's a Gemini. She's a rising Gemini. She looks like a Gemini. She acts and attracts like a Gemini. Her second house, her biggest priority: Cancer, maternity, motherhood, taking care of her mother, being a mom herself, taking care of other mothers, making sure that mothers are safe. And I mean, like in the acting world, are there daycares on set? You know what I mean? Like, is the makeup artist's child okay? And her third and fourth house, she has Leo and Virgo. Okay, so this is another thing that I keep saying, because my readings are very like America centric. They're very like, my own life experiences centric, because it's me reading it. So I always say that the third house and fourth house talk about like your childhood environment and the place that you grew up. So she's from a very famous place. I don't know if a lot of people know Arlington, Virginia. I'm very familiar with Arlington. It's where the Pentagon is. It's very militarized. You'd actually probably see more connections with this with like Aries, perhaps. And maybe she's very famously from Arlington. I think she went to like Washington Lee High School. So she's like very well known in her hometown for being famous. The third house, though, it talks about like your manifestation style, like what do you do to manifest, right? So if you have like an Aries third house, it's like you yell and you scream and you're like a diva and you're like, get me that coffee. I don't want to play Tetris. Put something better on the screen, Taro Bay. Or whatever. And, so she'd maybe like manifest things from being famous. And I remember watching Miss Congeniality, and she's like sitting in a bar struggling to open a carton of like Ben and Jerry's ice cream, and I'm like, maybe she interjected that to like coax Ben and Jerry's to give her ice cream. Is that something I would do? But then I'm always talking about how like Virgo, especially Virgo in the fourth house of like home and hometown, talks about Virginia, or like breadbasket states: Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland, and America. Which I'm sure there are other places that are similar like that in other, suburbia, in other parts of the world. I'm just more familiar with this place because this place is where I'm from. So she is from Arlington, Virginia. She has a fourth house in Virgo. Astrology is real. She grew up in Virgo. But if somebody else were to have a fourth house in Virgo and it's not from America, it's to say they're from a place that is very conservative. There are hardworking people there, people growing bread, girls riding horses, things like that. And I don't know. I'm kind of scatterbrained right now. I kind of am forcing myself to do this video. I feel like a little bit against my will, even though I am my own free will. Because because I think I would rather do Mick Jagger, or I feel like Dua Lipa is a little bit more relevant at the time of recording. And I'm not really sure who Amy Adams is, but I would love to find out who she is. It was just something I was thinking about with Idris Elba, because I had I was like, as I was doing the Virgo videos, I'd also discovered Amy Poehler's podcast, and it was like synchronistic and almost psychedelic, where they were basically matching. They're like matching clothes, and she starts talking about being a Virgo, and he's like, "I'm not into that crap." But it's not that I don't think that Idris Elba doesn't like astrology. It's just that he has a rising Libra, which puts Virgo in his 12th house, meaning that him being a Virgo makes him miserable. Where she has a Virgo 4th house, it's home to her. She loves being at home or like around Virgo energy or in suburbia. Where it's like, Idris Elba, he's a big man, a big hardworking man, very Virgo to be hardworking, and an actor and a DJ. But, like if you want to be a footballer, famous footballer or something like that, you'd rather be a Sagittarius or a Capricorn or something like badass, not the little girl sign. So it's really great for Amy Poehler to be a Virgo, because she gets to be the little horse girl sign, where it's like, for Idris Elba, he's on the football field, he's on the basketball court, and they're like, oh, you throw like a girl. So like, that sign kind of makes him miserable. But is from Virginia, 4th house in Virgo. I guess look up Virginia. It's suburbia. She also has some planets there. Let's look at that. I really wanted to talk about that because it was like so crazy, and I was like, here I'm doing Amy Poehler's chart. Here she is with her own podcast, and also talking about astrology with Rachel Dratch, and it was very, very interesting to look at that time. What planet she has? She has Pluto in Virgo. So, she's Pluto and Uranus in Virgo. So, living in Virginia has caused a lot of boundlessness and opened up borders for her. And she'll probably die here, like she'll probably live and die here or wants to. Like, who would ever want to leave such a great place? But I guess it also causes like a lot of endings. Maybe there's like a lot of judgment from being from such a place, or, maybe not being like more exotic or interesting. Maybe it's like closed door, as it might have opened doors for her, it might have closed doors for her. I don't really remember her being in like, Black Hawk Down or a lot of like military movies. The bio that I read for her is from like probably 2015. But there's a lot of people, I think, like David Arquette and what's his name, and Adam Driver, who have like worked with the military. And it kind of like calls to the whole like Zoolander thing, like actors and models secretly being spies for the government, but like they're connected like with the military, working with the military. She was a cop in Miss Congeniality, and things like that. But I'm like really interested in that, and I will move on. Okay, so now we're going to talk about Sandra Bullock's 5th house. This is like not a second take, but like a continuation, as I'm not even like really realizing like what a feat that is, to like that most of these videos are like sort of one take, one and done, because I am like not lazy, because I'm making so many videos. I just don't have the energy to really do a lot of editing. But we're looking at Sandra Bullock's so like in her previous episode about Sandra Bullock in her 4th house, she is from Arlington, Virginia. She's a 4th house in Virgo. I keep talking about how Virginia is Virgo, and that's like sort of confirmed, I guess, by her in this one instance. And then she's a 5th house in Libra. I call the 5th house the house of sexy distraction. So the 5th house is the Leo house. It is the house that is ruled by Leo, like your ego, your willpower, and determination. She has a sun in Leo, sun and Mercury in Leo. And then the sign that she has occupying this house is Libra. So I thought I had that messed up, but I was actually right. So it's to say that maybe like her looks, like getting out of the mirror, could be very distracting for her. Her hair, things like that, which is important because she's an actress. So if her hair starts thinning, graying, whatever, it could, cause depression, things like that. She's in a bad relationship, good relationship. Her partner is doing better than her or winning more Oscars than her. Could be an issue. Maybe at certain times, Sandra Bullock is like, I should have never been an actress. I should have been a singer. I would, looking at her, I would buy a Sandra Bullock album. I don't know. I don't know what type of music she would sing. I would say gangster rap, but I would definitely buy a Sandra Bullock album. So maybe she did make a horrible mistake. Because Virgo is also Virgo and Libra is very hip hop. Cardi B is a Virgo, or no, Cardi B is a Libra. Snoop Dogg is a Libra. Bunch of other Libra rappers, bunch of other Virgo rappers. Maybe Sandra Bullock was meant to be a rapper at some point, but the Illuminati and things. But I feel like it's more about relationships and that being a distraction and not wanting to show up the red carpet alone and things like that, and how she heals the energy of her fifth house, so how she gets over this, overcomes this, supersedes this, or should, could, would, or is supposed to, is by the energy of Scorpio that she has in her Virgo sixth house of healing, also with the planet of Neptune. So, in this series of celebrity natal charts, I say that the planet of Neptune is the TV antenna of the zodiac or whatever, the astrology world. So, whoever's helping her with her broadcast and getting her name out there is most likely some type of Scorpio. And she's out there, we all know who she is. So how does she bring healing to that is maybe being fiercely independent, maybe being someone a dark character. She's dark hair, dark eyes, and not being so much of a teeny bopper pop star celebrity with some beautiful person on her arm always. Which I don't, in her bio, there's no real mention of a partner. Her last name, Bullock, as I say, probably comes from her father, could come from some type of spouse that's just not as famous as her. And I think I've talked about that a couple times where it's who do you date? Do you want them to be more famous than you? Do you want them to be richer than you? Do you want them to be more popular? More hardworking, more education? Or do you, whatever? And I was watching Ab Fab, absolutely fabulous with, I don't even know her name, I do know her name. I don't know her sign, with Jennifer Lawrence, with Jennifer Saunders, Ab Fab with Jennifer Saunders, and they were discussing, they had this one episode that was very Sex in the City, and she was narrating it, and she was discussing the concept of power couples and what it takes to be in a power couple, and how in the most successful power couples, one character is the stallion and the other character is the donkey. And Edwina Monsoon, Jennifer, I keep calling her Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Saunders' character is coming to realize, between her and Patsy, that she's the donkey, and Patsy is the stallion. She's tall and beautiful and skinny, and you can never have too many hats and gloves and coats and scarves. And so maybe in her relationship, if she is in a relationship, she is the stallion. She does have more horse-like features, and maybe her husband or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, is a donkey. And that's how she survives. And maybe it's Scorpio is I say it's the house of want, wishes, and desires. Other people it's sex, death, and taxes. I also think it's brass tacks and being very cutthroat and to the point. So it's just having that cutthroat thing to the point, hey, Benjamin, Christopher, whoever in this relationship, you are the donkey, and I am riding you like Don Quixote to my success. So that's how she heals her fifth house, maybe fear of relationships damaging her ego, where it's she could date, what is it, Chelsea Handler dated 50 Cent. Like, she could date Big Sean or Ray J, and they could, like, totally destroy her credibility or reputation in some way, because they are rappers and they're not winning Oscars for whatever reason. That was a weird house. Okay, so her seventh house is in Sagittarius, because she is a Gemini rising, correct? She's a Leo Gemini rising. So naturally, Sagittarius is the seventh house from Gemini. And this says that her most ideal partner in an equal house system would be someone who's like very athletic, competitive, maybe even petty. Because like Sagittarius fire signs like tend to be like petty, competitive. There's nothing wrong with being petty. Like, I know like petty has like a negative connotation, and even with like Scorpio, like if someone's like, "Oh, I'm out for revenge," I'd be like, "Oh God, like get a hobby," you know what I mean? But it's like, you know, things are invented. Toaster ovens are invented. Microwave ovens are invented. Television shows are produced. Movies are made out of like spite and pettiness and vindictiveness and vengeance. So sometimes it can feel like those negative emotions can feel like pretty good things. So yeah, she should be dating a Sagittarius or married to a Sagittarius, or should date Sagittariuses, like athletes, maybe like equestrians, perhaps not necessarily like jockeys in a horse race, but maybe like, you know, people who play polo, like maybe people who are friends with John Walsh or something, wealthy people who ride horses. John Walsh, Christopher Reeves, Bella Hadid. These are all people who like ride horses and are cool. Maybe Sandra Bullock and Bella Hadid will be a power couple one day, and who's to say they'll be two stallions together instead of anyone being the donkey. And then in her eighth house, her Scorpio house of want, wishes, and desires, brass tacks, and sex, death, and taxes, we have Capricorn. So she's probably really good at her taxes. She's probably really good at like paying for things. I don't know if she even lives in Arlington. She could literally live in like Beverly Hills or Iowa somewhere. But like, you know, if you want to afford a good, nice suburban house, you have to have all of your ducks in a row. Capricorn to me is a sign of like Ross from Friends, just like some New Yorker guy in a black business suit doing business, like businessman doing business. So that's what I see there. I mean, other things like Capricorn's like the seedy underbelly. They are all the different types of, you know, word and then insert trafficker. They're bad people. In the tarot, Saturn, Capricorn's ruling planet, is ruled by the devil. But also like the Nine of Pentacles, which is like a mob wife, a housewife, what is it? Like a nicely dressed woman. So it ranges everywhere from like the seedy underbelly to like maybe like even like the first lady of the United States or any other country's leader spouse. Maybe that's what she wants to be. Maybe she wants to be the first lady. Maybe she wants to be like Jackie O, and she's like, I am Sandra B. Vote Sandra B for first lady. I don't want to be your president, just the first lady. And that is her eighth house. In her ninth house, she has Aquarius, so she probably has like a lot of like friends abroad, friends in different countries. I think she also has her moon in Aquarius as well. Let's take a quick look. Moon in Aquarius. So the Aquarian moon, which a lot of people say is the equivalent of the Seven of Swords in the tarot deck, are people who like to steal. And like, they don't love you. They don't love you and they like to steal, the Aquarian moon. So I don't know Sandra Bullock. I've never met her before. I've never been watching Alan Carr or something and they're like, she takes things off of set. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if someone has a story about her taking something from them. Maybe stealing a role. Maybe she likes to steal roles from people. Like, oh, this role was written for Reese Witherspoon, and I took it. So maybe that's like a thing with her, like snatching things from under the rug from people. But the Aquarian moon is like a very common and very interesting position. So that's her seventh house, her eighth house, her ninth house. Maybe she likes to steal people's like plane tickets or seats on the plane, and I don't know. Her 10th house is in Pisces. So she does have a thing where, her and Gwen Stefani and other, Gwen Stefani, MC Hammer, Reverend Run, like they might all turn over at some point and start a church or become preachers or priests. And I think that, like, if there is a reverend who's trying to convince me that, like, God is real and that miracles can happen and you can achieve your dreams, it would be somebody perhaps from Hollywood who's like, hey, I was just some knock-kneed person going to Washington Lee High School, some old, rickety, high school in the South without air conditioning, named after like racist war generals, and then I became like a mega movie star. Magic and miracles are possible. But she also has Chiron in Pisces, so it's like, it's like, well, also you must also be beautiful. So Chiron is Chiron is like something I have a lot of understanding of. Midheaven, North Node, things I don't really have that great of an understanding of. But Chiron I've like gotten very familiar with, where it's like things that like either like you can help other people with but can't help yourself with, where it's like, you might think that you are Dr. Dolittle and you're the best at correcting people's accents, yet your accent is like atrocious, and vice versa. So maybe she thinks that she can help people with their connection to God, and she like takes the Lord's name in vain every 5 seconds. Things like that. And that's her 10th house. And she has an 11th house in Aries, so this says that like she's like very competitive with her friends, very angry with her friends, very like like Sandra Bullock in the MySpace era in her top 8 were probably like really annoying. Okay, and like I was saying, that you probably did not want to know Sandra Bullock during the MySpace era, and she was probably like very protective or aggressive with her top 8 and things like that. Which, like, being a celebrity, your top 8, it's like free marketing, so it is actually like it would be like a really big place for contention with like there's like you're some struggling actor that no one's ever heard of, you're on Sandra Bullock's top 8, you might get cast in like Oscar award winning movies. I was not friends with Sandra Bullock during the era of MySpace, but like I would imagine like maybe like Regina King is on there. Regina King has had like a really great career. I would be very interested to do her natal chart, as she was in Miss Congeniality and like one of my favorite shows, 227 and the Boondocks and everything like that. But so just like clear everything up and to erase all of the likes and ums and whatever. That's me. That's my voice. That's my 5th house and my challenges and my Chiron. And my 3rd house of Aries, where I just impulsively speak, unrehearsed, usually within one take. She has a rising Gemini, meaning that she likes people that are similar to her. She has a 2nd house in Cancer, which means that like mothers are a cash cow for her. So maybe she'll make more movies garnered towards like women, like Hallmark movies, things about maternity and having children. She's a 3rd house in Leo. She sounds famous. Her name sounds famous. Her manifestation style is telling people like, hey, I'm famous. I shouldn't be sitting in coach. I'm Sandra Bullock. 4th house in Virgo, mostly about Idris Elba. But she like grew up in Arlington, Virginia. 5th house in Libra. This is literally how this video should have went. And like the ums and likes are just like, make it like go on longer. 5th house in Libra. is basically saying that relationships are a huge obstacle for her. How she heals those obstacles is with her 6th house in Scorpio, which I was saying was like, I don't know, a bunch of different things: being famous, being on television, being on TV, like having her movies played on TV so people know who she is, and then like whoever her PR team is. And I think that's what I was talking about, like Jennifer Saunders so much, because in AbFab she's like a PR person. Scorpios do PR, and then also, God, I think she's a Virgo rising Scorpio, but she's a Virgo rising Scorpio. She plays a character, I believe, called Amanda in the show Friends, but then Jennifer Coolidge comes back in the show Joey to be Bobby Morgenstein, who is Joey's agent. So it's some Scorpio who is her agent. Brings a lot of healing from the distractions of, like, relationships, ups and downs. She could be having like love affairs with Sagittariuses, or like good love matches for her in relationships, especially with celebrities. Some people are stallions, and some people are donkeys. And then in her 8th house, I think maybe she like wants to be a businesswoman. Like maybe she didn't want to be actress. She just wanted to like work for some type of like high-powered corporation and wear a suit every day. And then in her 9th house, she has Aquarius, meaning that like maybe she wants to like start a Friends podcast or go to some college course about how to make good friends. And like as a celebrity, like how to tell someone's actually your friend. But then we also figured out that she has a moon in Aquarius, meaning that she like loves nobody and probably will always struggle with friends and friendship, and technology and things like that. 10th house in Pisces will probably turn over to the Lord. We'll probably be talking about Reverend Sandra Bullock soon in her mega church, probably somewhere in Fairfax. She has a 11th house in Aries, saying that like she was probably really aggressive, or like probably even aggressive, like how come I'm like Regina King, how come I'm not on your top 8, type of energy on MySpace and MySpace era. And then she has a 12th house in Taurus. So the 12th house in Taurus talks about, like, I always say, like, the 12th house is, like, people who make you miserable. It's a sign of ending. She also has Jupiter in Taurus, so it's sort of contradictory. And maybe it's why she's so successful, is because she's very lucky in this aspect to not display how, let's see if this is, yeah, Jupiter in Taurus, 22 degrees. Okay, and, like, how much Tauruses make her miserable. So the like typical like Taurian archetype is somebody with like a big back, money and finances, like mostly like chump change, like the like daily, like your daily money that you might have like rolling around in your pocket, might make her miserable. People that are large of size might make her miserable. People who are farmers or work in agriculture, who are maybe very unsympathetic to the poor little starlet actress, especially like living in Virginia and stuff, and like Arlington. It's like you're from the city and the suburbs, and might have cousins that are from a farm that make her miserable. So that is Sandra Bullock. I hope you enjoyed playing some type. I enjoy Tetris. I've been enjoying like Tetris and Solitaire. Other people might find that super annoying, but like you can play rain noises over this video. You can play your Xbox or PlayStation while listening to this video and just like somehow download some type of astrological knowledge. And for me, like even listening to lo-fi music, watching old reruns of 227, it's like I really just wish there was like someone who believes that math is a scam and English isn't a language but an old Scottish riddle. Just like some type of download about something. So, like astrology could be like absolute bunk or whatever. But it is very nice to be at a party or something, or to be on TikTok and it's like, oh, I at least know how to read a natal chart, no matter the validity of astrology and natal charts. It's like a talent that I have, which is something in my life too. But that's been Sandra Bullock. It's taken me a week to do this video, and as I was bragging about like how usually my videos are like one and done, is the 34 minutes has taken me a week to record, is not perfect. But thank you so much for liking, sharing, subscribing. Thank you for listening. Thank you for finding your best friend who is a Leo rising Gemini and telling them how successful they are going to be in life, much like Sandra Bullock, and make a bunch of really great movies like Miss Congeniality, which is maybe one of her movies that I've seen and that I like very much. So, goodbye.